Hello, David here at merchantaccounts.ca. Today I'm going to tackle a fairly simple topic, but one that causes a lot of confusion. When is it better to use a virtual terminal compared to traditional point of sale equipment? Now, at a high level, we can answer that quickly and say anytime the card's not physically present, but I can dig into it with a little more detail than that. There is a time and place for traditional point of sale equipment. And just in case you're not an expert or the terminology is throwing you, we're talking about the physical devices that you'll see at a gas station or a restaurant that you enter your card into when you're submitting a payment. And those devices have a lot of advantages to them in a retail scenario. So they are far more efficient when you have a lineup of people and you want to speed them through a checkout. Like at a grocery store, you would never use a virtual terminal. You would just drive everyone crazy. So from a speed and efficiency perspective, if you're at a super busy trade show, if you have a busy restaurant, that's a time when you should be using a POS machine. Also, one of the advantages of a point of sale machine is that it's EMV authenticated. Now, what that means is your credit card has a chip in it. Chip cards have been around for quite a few years. You enter into the machine and you type in your PIN number, your secret PIN. When you do that, it's considered a very highly authenticated transaction. What that means is, as a merchant, if someone turns around and says, "Hey, that wasn't me," you can say, "Hold on. This was an EMV authenticated transaction." In other words, to take all the confusing terminology out of it, you won't lose the chargeback. If a card is physically present, chip and PIN authenticated, you are protected against chargeback risk, which is a huge advantage. There's also an interchange consideration that can work to your benefit through a POS machine. That's because at an interchange level, interchange being the cost structure as set by Visa and MasterCard, the cost is 11 basis points cheaper, or roughly 0.11% cheaper when it's a physical card-present transaction run through a POS machine. So it's definitely not a world-ending disadvantage or advantage. It's 0.1%, which to me, it is significant, especially, again, if you have a retail scenario and you have that busy checkout. But with that being said, this video is actually about virtual terminals. Let's talk about when it's right to use a virtual terminal, which, like I said at the start, anytime the card is not physically present. So let's think about that for a second. If a customer is calling you, that obviously you're on the phone, you're keying it in, perfect time for a virtual terminal. Or you might get fax orders sent to you from people and you're just taking the fax and keying it in. That would work for a virtual terminal. You could have cards stored on file in your company, which is a whole nother issue because I don't want to get into PCI, which is the payment card industry data security standard. But lots of companies do store credit cards, and if you need a way to run that card efficiently, well, obviously, a virtual terminal is super easy for that. So another consideration to keep in mind as well is that same interchange thing that I spoke about a moment ago with point of sale. If a card's not physically present, it qualifies under what's called standard interchange. And what you need to know is most credit card processors, this is so important, I shouldn't say most, many, probably a majority of credit card processors, if you have a point of sale machine and you key the number into that point of sale machine, you will receive what's called a non-qualified fee. And we have other material on our website at merchantaccounts.ca about what that means. But to keep it short for now, it means your rate goes up, which it shouldn't. It should never go up by more than the difference between electronic interchange and standard interchange, which is 0.1%. And I don't want to make this confusing, so just to make it very simple, the advantage to a virtual terminal is anytime the card is not physically present, you should not be penalized by your payment processor in terms of paying a greatly inflated cost. And the problem when you use a point of sale machine to process a transaction and the card's not physically present, they don't just charge you the difference in the interchange. Sometimes they charge you a greatly inflated fee that's not reasonable or doesn't need to happen. And you're not getting a good deal. You're not getting a good rate for that transaction. There's some other big benefits to a virtual terminal as well. If you have a busy company, i.e. more than one person, and you need more than one person to process orders, possibly at the same time, the virtual terminal is a no-brainer. You could have 1,000 people using it. It's just a web page. You can have as many people using your virtual terminal as you want. You know what else they can't do? They can't break it. They can't drop it. They can't spill a coffee on it. Virtual terminals can't break. The worst thing you can do, I guess, is break your laptop that you're using to run the order, and you're just going to have to go to another computer in your office. But the point is, there's nothing to break. It's also faster because it's a virtual terminal. The second you're approved, log in and start using it. There's nothing to ship to you. There's no cost to ship it. And there's also, this is probably one of the biggest ones, and this is a big one for me because sometimes people say, should I get a POS machine? If you don't need it, no, because a virtual terminal has no setup cost. It's just a piece of software. We can give it to you for free, which we do at merchantaccounts.ca. If I sell you a point of sale machine, no matter how much I want to give it to you for no cost, we have a cost because it's a sophisticated piece of technology. Like, it has to be manufactured and configured, and your merchant ID is loaded. Long to short, virtual terminals are way cheaper. So in general, and here's my summary, if you are interacting with your customers and they're not physically standing there in person with you, use a virtual terminal. Cheaper, faster, better, can't break it, multiple users, no worries about being unfairly penalized for card not present transactions because it's supposed to be card not present. There's no magic bullet. Sometimes some businesses could go either. Here's a great one. People say to me, well, I do a trade show. At the trade show, we don't get a lot of orders, but should we have like a wireless POS machine? Could we key it into the virtual terminal? There are shades of gray. You have to look at your business and decide what's best for you. I hope I haven't confused you. I hope this has been somewhat helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to us at merchantaccounts.ca. Thanks for watching.